News continues on Chicago Live on Fox Local. Have a great rest of your afternoon. We will see you back here on Monday.
Next stop, Sherry.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for being here online for another day of Chicago Live. We're working on some tech things behind the scenes, but we're so happy that you're here with us. Happy Friday, everyone. We have come to the end of yet another work week, and we're so glad that you're with us. I'm your host, Anita Blanton, and I will be with you through 4 p.m. Let's go over some of the things that we have lined up for this first hour that we have here together. On Wednesday afternoon, an elderly driver pulling out of a McDonald's drive-through lost control, jumped the curb, sped through 2 bike racks, and went right into the Lost Girls Vintage store in Logan Square. I mean, just a sequence of events that no one saw coming. It all happened so fast. And no, it does not appear to have any ill intention, but there is a lot of cleanup and a lot of shock, obviously, as well. And I'm going to be talking with one of the store's co-owners, a beloved store there in Logan Square. Also, in an effort to test potential new fare collection technology and gather some data on where they are with things, Metra is starting a pilot program. This is going to start on April 6th, so not too long from now, and they're going to be asking riders to launch their Venture ticket or show their paper ticket before boarding selected trains at downtown stations. If you think about it right now, you get on the train and then the conductor comes through and scans everybody. But so the question is, will this make things quicker? Does it make things more efficient? Does it take us from whatever year into 2026? I don't know. We'll see. But we're going to be chatting with a representative from Metra about their goals to make it a little bit more clear, as at least to what they're trying to do here. But first, campaigns are increasingly using deep fakes in political ads, and including fabricated videos of candidates and AI generated voices or videos to mock or misrepresent opponents. We've seen it in our area. We've seen it in some of the primary elections in other states as well. And I have the CEO and co-founder of AI manipulation detection platform, CopyLeaks, to be here right now to discuss how much of this is out there, how to spot it, and maybe even how to combat the problem moving forward. Thank you so much for your time. Is it Alan?
Alan.
Alan.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Certainly appreciate the time. Although this is becoming a growing problem for so many and many different facets of our society right now. Tell me what you've seen.
So yeah, it's definitely becoming a bigger problem. AI is all around us, and it affects every aspect of our lives. It affects our day-to-day. All of us are reading, consuming content on a regular basis. It could be text, it could be images, it could be videos. But as it comes to elections and politics specifically, there are a lot of opportunities for different actors to use AI in ways that are not necessarily, the right ways. And the problem is that it's becoming harder and harder to identify and differentiate between AI and human, what's real and what's not. And it's very important to be aware that we're going to see more and more of this AI content around us.
Yeah, I mean, it's out there, hard to tell the difference for sure. And it feels like we're working from behind the issue.
It's exactly that. So from a legislation perspective, there is no framework that really gives a comprehensive solution. So at this point, as of December, there are around 26 states that actually have some regulation or legislation in place around political deepfakes. So there is no kind of like federal standards. And even if there is some sort of a regulation, it usually means that there should be somewhere a little sign saying this content is created by AI. But we've seen with some examples from the past that it's usually this, very small letters that are very hard to find. And today we're so used to consuming content and consuming it fast that you're just seeing what you're seeing and you're not looking at the details. And that's where AI can be very dangerous and misleading as well.
Absolutely. I think about the controversy, the Photoshop controversy for the royal family in England at one point in time, just about like, okay, well, maybe this person has an extra finger here, or this is turned in the wrong direction. I mean, and that was just for a photo. And we're so far beyond that when it comes to AI.
It's exactly that. So it's affecting photos. It's of course affecting videos as well. And it used to be in the beginning when generative AI just came out to where it is now, where it was pretty easy to identify the differences. So you could see that something is off in the photo. You gave a great example, those 6 fingers. AI is becoming more sophisticated. So now those kind of like easy to track mistakes are not necessarily there. So AI can look very, very realistic. So sometimes I would recommend just to scrutinize the content a little bit more. You can still identify, for example, in videos that the audio and the video itself are not really syncing well, or like small things like that. But still you need to look outside at like actual technological solutions in order to identify and detect AI in a reliable and more scalable way.
Yeah, there was even a very recent controversy here in the city of Chicago. We just had primary elections on Tuesday, but going into the primary elections, one of the candidates, very, very well-known name, Jesse Jackson Jr., in one of the ads that was supporting him, it used an AI-generated voice of former Congressman Bobby Rush, who has been through a number of health problems, and a lot of people had great issue with that. I mean, it looked like maybe they were trying to amplify his voice from the time when he was healthy, but again, how do you even spot voices that have changed?
Yeah, so it's basically creating fake realities, and that's the scary part. No one knows what's real and what's not. So the good thing is that there are a lot of AI tools out there that are focused specifically on AI detection. So because AI is becoming more and more sophisticated, for us as humans, it's very hard to identify these differences. But the AI platform, for example, CopyLeaks, have developed AI detection for text, images. We're coming out with videos and audio as well, and our models are able to identify the difference in the if it's in the image level, the difference in the pixel, if it's in the video, really frame by frame, and identifying how AI created content looks different versus real or human created content. So it could be completely, for us as humans, it could be completely transparent. We don't see the difference, but for our AI models, it's something that we're able to identify. And the good news is that as AI becomes more and more sophisticated and harder to track, our AI algorithms are becoming more sophisticated as well. So we're just becoming more and more accurate in the detection. So I would really recommend, especially if you're seeing sensitive content that is connected to elections or anything that you're kind of like suspecting where something looks a little bit off, you can go to our website, copyleaks.com, and just submit the image, submit the text, submit the video, and see if it's actually AI or not.
Yeah, and I think, one of the hard things too is like, okay, what if the person supports the use of their AI generated voice, or supports the use, because that was a part of the local controversy, was like, okay, what if the person knows that this is being used, like it's not behind your back, it's not without your permission, like if you know that this is happening and you actually support it, but others just kind of wonder, how far do we go with this?
Yeah, I think it's a real transparency issue, because even if the person was part of it and agreed to it, you want as a consumer of this content to have a real understanding of what it is that you're consuming, what it is that you're seeing. Can I have like full confidence in this content? Do I know if it's real or it's not? So even if you are doing it in purpose and this is, your voice that is being used, etc., I think the public will really value transparency and visibility around AI. And we're not seeing enough of that. Even if there is some, little small letter saying that this content is created by AI, it's not something that is actually visible. People are easily misled in that way. I think there's got to be more transparency, and then we should expect AI to be used. I mean, it would be crazy to assume people will not use AI moving forward, but there's got to be more transparency around it.
Mm-hmm. And and maybe more regulation too. Do you think?
I think definitely more regulation. I think beyond regulation is also the enforcement. So we're seeing that some states are starting to create regulation around AI, but the enforcement part is missing. So let's say that you have a regulation in place. How are you making sure that you have in high volumes, in high scalability, the ability to detect people that are, not being transparent around AI, using it in area where they shouldn't, etc. So there's got to be also set of tools, in this case, AI detectors that are being used in high volumes in order to make sure that there is not just regulation, but that there are also ways of enforcing the regulation and making sure that there is true transparency around AI. So I think definitely the regulation part is important, and we're behind. And we're seeing also in Europe, for example, with the AI Act, there is like a more comprehensive framework there already. But I think in terms of the enforcement, this is an area that is still missing in high scale worldwide at this point. And this has got to be something that goes hand to hand with the regulation as well.
Enforcement is a huge piece of the pie. You're right on that. And so, moving forward, talk a little bit more about what your company does and what you expect to be able to build on as time goes.
So we're solely focused on content authentication. We want to get to a point where everyone is able to read, view, see content online or anywhere with full confidence. We understand that this mission is going to become harder and harder over time as AI will be more and more around us and will become more sophisticated. So we need to invest more and more in our tools in order to give this AI transparency. So at Copylix, we started with AI text detection. We expanded to AI image detection. And with images specifically, where we identify that there is a serious issue, is not just identifying if an image is created by AI or not, but if it was manipulated by AI. Where we're seeing that there are a lot of fraud cases is images that started as real photos, real images, and then someone is changing using AI a small piece in the image. So we developed an identification mechanism that is able to really identify in a pixel level exactly what it is within the image that was changed and manipulated with AI. So we're planning on also expanding these levels of detection and accuracy to videos and audio as well. So the idea is that any piece of content, if it's text, image, video, audio, will be authenticated for AI, and you'll immediately be able to receive results around how original it is, what's the source, is it AI, is it human, and give you this full confidence around the content that you're consuming. We're mostly worried about fraud cases. These fraud cases could be around, obviously, politics, but also outside of it. We're seeing it cross markets from financial institutions to insurance. The bar for fraud is now very, very low. So we want to make sure that everyone has access to our tools in order to authenticate content in high volumes.
Well, one piece of what you said in terms of the lacking confidence in what we are consuming struck me hard. And it is so true that I think as time goes on, there are just more and more questions about what is it that I'm actually seeing? And are my eyes deceiving me, or is what I'm looking at actually what is deceiving me? So lots of questions as we move forward. Thank you for what your platform does. I certainly appreciate being able to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you take care. Everybody, it's about 1:15. Let's get in a quick 2-minute break, and then we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. 1:21 right now. Still working through some technical difficulties behind the scenes, so bear with us here. But, one of the things about technology is that you're always testing new things, right? And really for Metra, they're in the midst of testing out not only new technology, but just some new protocols, if you will, for riders to see if it'll make things faster, if it'll make things more efficient. And I want to welcome in Michael Gillis with Metra to talk to me a little bit more about the new fare collection technology. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Nice segue, by the way.
Technology is wonderful when it works.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to me about you all's pilot program.
So we could probably talk for an hour and a half about what it would take to integrate our fares with the CTA and PACE. But most of the solutions that people have suggested have involved some sort of handheld scanner that we could use on our trains to check tickets. Right now, we don't have anything like that. And this pilot is a test of something we've developed to scan tickets. And it's really kind of a baby step. We don't know if these are going to be the tools we end up using, if we end up using any tools at all. But we wanted to check it out just to see if these scanners we've acquired are durable, if they're functional, how fast they work, before we take any other steps. So that's what it's all about. We're just going to be asking people at certain trains, and we'll be picking trains that aren't really that busy to start with, because we don't want to have huge log jams in the stations. We'll just ask you to show your ticket, either a Venture ticket or a paper ticket, before you board, and so we can scan it. And that'll give us some information too about how people use their Metra tickets, where they buy them, where they're going. But the real goal is just to test these scanners.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an idea already of the lines that you might try this out on first?
We'll be trying them on every line. It'll be when you're boarding your train at a downtown station. As I say, we'll start in off-peak trains, and we'd only moved off-peak trains if we thought we could do it without really creating a problem. We're just trying to test these scanners. We're not trying to inconvenience anybody.
Mm-hmm. And how long do you expect this pilot to last?
We didn't have a closing date on it. I expect it'll last a few months, just so we can get some good hard data. and some good experience with working with these scanners.
So you mentioned this really kind of comes out of the idea of merging systems and where we're going with things moving forward. Talk a little bit more about that, because that was one of the big topics from the last legislative session.
Yeah, so just for the uninitiated, the CTA and PACE, when you board their systems, you pay a flat rate no matter how far you're going. You pay it at the entrance to the system, either a turnstile or walking past a bus operator. And then you're good to go for the rest of it. But on Metra, we base our fares on how far you travel. So you couldn't take, for instance, Metra card, which you can use on CTA and PACE, and just walk onto Metra and pay your fare with it. It just doesn't work, because we need to know how far you're going, so we know how much to charge you. So there are ways around that. A lot of mass transit organizations around the world use what's called a tap-on, tap-off system, where you have to tap your card as you're getting on the train and then tap when you're getting off the train, and then it charges you based on how far you've gone. But you still, even in that system, you have to have some way to scan those cards on board to make sure people, when they got on the train, it scanned their fare product. So that's just one example of where handheld scanner might be useful for the NITA folks as they take on this challenge, because they have been charged with trying to integrate our fares with CTAs and PACEs in the next few years.
Yeah, and where do you think some other aspects of the merge, the Northern Illinois Transit Authority, or as I like to say, we did say we are working on some technology behind the scenes, but or as I like to say, NITA, for obvious reasons. Tell us a few more aspects of where we're going with things.
Agencies, the RTA is being replaced by NITA. Metra's board will be reappointed. Some might be coming back, and we might have some new board members. And then, I would say one of the prime motivations for this legislation is to just make sure the services are more coordinated, and also that you have more service. And that's part of the reason why the funding increased so much. So we'll see efforts by NITA to make sure CTA, PACE, and Metra are coordinating things in terms of making connections. And that's why the fare integration would be important, because if you're riding a PACE bus and getting on a Metra train, they want you to be able to have just one ticket for that whole trip. So that's really the idea behind it.
Yeah, and I would love your thoughts on why we've gotten to this point, why these types of things were necessary.
Well, I think when that question was asked of at least the Metra leadership, one of the things we pointed out is people want to see more service. They want to see more trains running on their lines. We've always argued that's a funding issue. We would run more trains if we had the funding to do it. Mm-hmm. There are other challenges too. As you probably know, most of our lines are not owned by us. They're owned by freight railroads. So we have to work out deals with them in order to operate trains on their tracks. But I think there was a frustration. There's also the safety and security aspect of this, which is another 90-minute conversation that the lawmakers were trying to get at. They're trying to create a more unified system, a more kind of one ticket, one ride system, and a safe and secure system.
Well, the safety and security is a huge aspect of it. Obviously, we talk a lot about it when it comes to the CTA and the federal government's, focus on it. Let's call it that. Focus on it right now. But yes, I mean, more so once we get into the aspect of NETA moving forward, it really does translate into Metra, CTA, and PACE, and where we're going with things. So thank you so much for your time. Let me ask you before I let you go. There is a conversation about, okay, years ago there were more conductors on the lines. Would this lead to maybe even fewer conductors than what we see now?
So no, I mean that's not what we're going at here with these scanners. I think maybe that might apply a little more to the CTA, where they used to have conductors on their trains and they don't anymore. We still have them on our trains. We also have our own dedicated police force. I think Metra trains are incredibly safe and secure. I think our customers would agree with me on that. So no, that's not something that I see happening.
Okay, wonderful. Just wanted to say that because it has come up. So when we talk about conductors validating tickets, I want to make sure we clarify that we're not talking about doing away with anyone's job.
Yeah, correct. And even during this pilot, you'll still be expected to validate your tickets with the conductors.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you have a great weekend, and please keep us updated on the length of this program. However long it goes, let us know when there are some data points that you can share about what you all learn.
All right. Thanks
Wonderful.
for having me.
Have a great weekend. It's 1:30, everyone. And again, that pilot program begins on April 6th. Okay, so keep that in mind as you, oh goodness, next week will be the end of March. So it will be here before we know it, April 6th. It's 1:30 though. Let's try to get in a 2-minute break and we'll be right back. All right, everyone, it's about 1:33 right now. We got a pretty significant announcement from the Trump administration this week that a significant portion of the management and responsibilities of the nation's federal student loan portfolio is going to move. It's going to transition from the U.S. Department of Education that is essentially going away little by little to the U.S. Treasury Department. I want to bring in Ted Rossman, who is a principal analyst with Bankrate, to talk a little bit more about the announcement and what this means for so many people who have loans. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Let's just get your reaction to the announcement first and foremost.
Well, a big part of this is likely that the Trump administration is trying to shut down the education department. They've really made no bones about that in the past. The president and his administration would like to phase out the education department. Moving student loan payments and servicing over to the Treasury Department is kind of a procedural move that could make that easier to happen. They also say it makes more sense for the finance people to handle the financial part of this. Student loans are big business, obviously. In fact, if the government's student loan portfolio was a bank, it would be the 5th largest bank in America. So they say that the money people should handle that. It's kind of a procedural move. If you have federal student loans, this is not immediately going to change anything in terms of how much you owe or who you're paying or things like that.
So what does it change?
It's more on the back end, especially in terms of collections. That's a big deal right now because a lot of people are falling behind on federal student loans, unfortunately. Now, we know that we had that long payment pause during and after the pandemic, and now we're really seeing a lot of people falling behind. Now that those payments have resumed, now that inflation is high, and right now there are about 11 million federal student loan borrowers that are either in default or close to it. They're at least 90 days late on their payments. And that's something that this administration has really made a big deal about, trying to track down these borrowers, get the payments back. There was a very long multi-year period when people didn't have to pay anything. So they say that the Treasury is going to be better equipped to try to get some of these payments back and reconciliations, and they can garnish your wages, they can do other things to track you down. So that's one of the things that Treasury is going to be doing.
I'm sure a lot of people who are sitting at home listening to that are like, oh my goodness. I mean, because there has been so much back and forth on this issue from the Biden administration into the Trump administration. I do feel like people's heads are spinning when it comes to how to pay back their loans, when, and the extent of how it may be taken if you don't readily give it up.
Well, you're right. There's been a lot of confusion because there's all these different income-based plans, and the Biden administration had theirs. There's other administrations that have had them. There's kind of all these weird leftover mishmash of different plans. That's in the process of being streamlined. Starting this summer, there will only be 2 plans available for new student loans, the standard, and then there's going to be one repayment assistance program that's more of an income-based kind of thing. Now, there is still some confusion with regard to consolidating some of these old ones. There's still some legislation pending. There's court cases pending. There's kind of a whole fight going on. And it actually brings up an interesting point, which is that out of these 11 million people that are in default or delinquency, that's about 1 in 4 federal student loan borrowers. In not all cases is it because they don't have the money. In other words, sometimes people do have the money. There's just confusion about, well, I thought I was eligible for some sort of forgiveness, or I was in an income-based repayment plan, or I don't know who to pay, or sometimes there is administrative confusion. So that's something that still needs to be sorted through. I don't know if this announcement will necessarily help or hurt with that, but there is some machinations going on behind the scenes to kind of reorganize and retool the way that federal student loans are issued and serviced.
Yeah, and then even that's for people who already have them. Let's say, how does this change the process of even getting them? Like for anyone who has a child that maybe is getting ready to go to college, and you're looking at that all known, well too known, FAFSA form.
Yeah, it shouldn't immediately change anything with the FAFSA form and application or loans in process. Also, federal student loan servicing, like the companies that actually send you the letter and collect your payments, and those are actually private companies contracted by the government. So that should all remain very much in place. If you're a student loan borrower or prospective borrower, there's nothing that immediately changes here, but this is kind of a back-end reorganization. Might make it easier for the Trump administration to completely shut down the Department of Education and just move the financing arm over to Treasury. There are still some pending court cases about some of those income-based plans. We see starting this summer that new federal student loans will have some different guidelines in terms of the 5 to 25 year repayment, the repayment assistance program. They're in the process of kind of streamlining some of this, but it's been a bit of a bumpy road. And that's actually why some people are confused and not paying, is that they're just not sure what to do.
Yeah, and the department, the education department, that the secretary, Linda McMahon, says in terms of when she was asked about what changes borrowers should see, she said, you should see no change. This should be seamless.
Yes, that's the idea. So yeah, definitely keep making those payments if you can. I mean, any sort of broad scale forgiveness seems very unlikely at this point. That was something that the Biden administration was talking about. It's not something this administration's talking about. There are sort of limited forgiveness programs available for certain public service occupations and certain income-based kind of plans. But for the most part, you're supposed to make these payments. They have resumed after a long pause. And that's why we're starting to see this really lag effect with people falling behind, is that there were so many years that this was paused and it was not due and it was not appearing on your credit. Now it is. And some people are really suffering lower credit scores as a result. These bills are actively being sent and collected now. So definitely stay on track if you can. If you need some help, contact your servicer. Ask for some sort of forbearance or deferment or relief. Maybe you can get into an income-based repayment plan. Ask for help. Don't just hide from the payments.
There you go. Ted Rawson, Principal Analyst with Bankrate. Thank you so much for your time today, sir, and your information.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Take care. Everyone, it is 1:40 right now, and that's just something, listen, I know there's been a lot of conflicting information coming out. Even at one point in time, the Trump administration had said that it was going to be the Small Business Association that would handle these federal loans at some point in time, but now it's going to be the U.S. Treasury. But again, a lot of information that's coming at you very quickly, but just make sure that you're staying on top of it, especially if you're trying to get someone into college and you're going through that process, or even if you have loans right now that you're trying to bring down that number on. Please just stay on top of the information. Don't fall behind. All right, let's transition into our conversation about better days ahead in terms of the weather. Today is beautiful outside, and this weekend is expected to be chef's kiss, at least, well, the first half of it. We'll talk about the second half of it a little later on with our meteorologist, but essentially we're going to want to be outside a lot more, whether that's walking around the city or maybe going out on the water as well. And I have Captain Kat Miller with the Creepy Cruise, who is with me right now, the First Lady, Captain, who is joining me to talk a little bit more about kicking things off for the Creepy Cruise season. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
I have a lot of questions about this Creepy Cruise. I was a little like, whoa, well, what do we mean Creepy Cruise? I'm sure this isn't the first year for it, but tell us more about it.
Yeah, this is not the first year. We're pretty excited. We kicked off our Creepy Cruises last year, and we run it through our whole season. Right now we're starting out on Saturday nights, and by creepy, we mean Chicago's kind of an interesting place. It has interesting history. Not all of it is bright and sunny, and so we're showcasing, maybe the wrong word, but we're kind of highlighting some of the interesting, maybe a little bit darker aspects of Chicago history that people really enjoy.
Ooh, okay. Now, when you say the dark side of the history around Chicago, first and foremost, I know you're on the First Lady right now. It looks beautiful. So how do we take something beautiful and talk about the dark side?
Well, I mean, I suppose every city has its, kind of dark underbelly. Chicago has a really long history. We just celebrated our 180 7th birthday. Sorry, my math is bad. But you know, we have mob history that, you know, is not some of our finer moments, but you know, I mean, it's part of Chicago's history. We've hosted major world events. We've had 2 World's Fairs, and some of the goings on around those were, you know, like less than ideal to talk about. But you know, it showcases Chicago is full of like real people, and so yeah, everyone's interested in not just the bright sunny things. So.
That is true. I mean, there's a lot of interest there for sure. It's the 189th birthday for Chicago that we just celebrated. You were very close, and I was like, I think she's almost there, but it's 189th. So tell us when exactly people can start taking the Creepy Cruise, and okay, if I board, what can I expect?
So we kick off our first Creepy Cruise of the season tomorrow night. Our first ride leaves at 8 o'clock. I'll be your captain if anyone's interested in joining. And what you can expect is a cruise aboard our beautiful boats. I'm sitting here aboard Chicago's leading lady right now. We have they're double-decker boats. We have a full salon inside with chairs and tables set up. So if you want to spend a little time indoors, you're welcome to kind of hang out downstairs. You'll still be able to hear the tour, but if you want to join us for the full effect, we have a top deck upstairs where you can see the beautiful Chicago skyline at night. Chicago is one of the most beautiful cities when it's lit up at night. So we hope you'll enjoy your time up there. And then we have a professionally trained tour guide who has studied and trained and researched a lot about Chicago history. And so we do our best to kind of give you a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. And how long do we have to experience the Creepy Cruise? And is it an experience for the kiddos as well as the adults, or should this be like a 21 and up?
No, we like to make it family friendly. We like to make it accessible to everyone. The stories aren't too scary. It's not something like some of our competitors, some of the ghost tours that have been running a little longer. You won't necessarily see exactly where things happened. So there's not the opportunity for like real scares. But we do like to keep it family friendly. We do have a bar on board, so if anyone who is of age would like to partake, we do have a bar and bartenders here to kind of help you out with some additional spirits if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, family friendly. Everyone can join. We'd love to see you.
Captain Kat, how long have you been on the First Lady? And tell me what you love about this season.
Well, this is my 6th season with First Lady. And one of my favorite things, oh gosh, there's a lot. I mean, I've been doing this for 20-something years. And so I will say that one of my favorite things about this job is that, you know, I wish you could see it a little better, but this is my office. Chicago is my office. The sights never get old. The sunsets are always beautiful. The ever-changing skyline is always something to marvel at. So that's what I love.
Well, I love it too, and I've been doing this for 20-something years as well, so I get it. Great having you on the show today. I hope that everyone will come out and take the Creepy Cruise and look for other opportunities with the First Lady from then on.
Yeah, absolutely. Come out. We'd love to see you guys. Native Chicagoans, come explore your city. Be a tourist in your own city. You'll love it, I swear.
Mm-hmm. There's always something new popping up, or maybe a new perspective on things you've already seen. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
It's good to finally talk about outdoor things, you know? We've been cooped up for long enough. Time to finally get back outside. for a bit. It's 1:48, everyone. Let's get in a quick 2-minute break, and then we'll proceed on from there. Welcome back. 1:50 right now, and boy, oh boy, did the co-owners of Lost Girls Vintage, really just as well as everyone in the area in Logan Square, get quite the shocker this week. There was an elderly person behind the wheel of a vehicle that unfortunately lost control of it, went across the street through the bike lanes and the racks and right into Lost Girls Vintage storefront. I want to bring in Kyla Embry, one of the co-owners, to talk a little bit about when you got the word. Oh my goodness, is that the boarded up front right behind you?
It is indeed.
Oh,
yep.
So sorry.
The whole storefront.
Yikes.
Thank you.
Did you get a phone call? Were you there? I mean, how did you even know that this had happened?
So by some miracle, we just happened to be closed on Wednesday for plumbing repairs in the building. And thankfully, the crew was also on their lunch break. So there was nobody in the building and nobody was hurt, or everybody was good, thankfully. But we got a call from our neighbor saying, hey, somebody crashed through your window. You need to get here. And we're thinking, maybe they hit the window and all the glass broke. But we're shocked when we arrived on scene and saw the car completely through our entire storefront all the way and did not stop until he hit the back wall.
Oh my goodness. And again, I mean, it appears here there's no ill will, no bad intentions. That this was not a targeted incident or anything of that nature. But what was going through your mind when you saw your store in utter disarray?
I mean, honestly, the first thought that went through my mind when I got that call was, I need to call our construction guys and make sure they're okay, make sure they're all accounted for, make sure nobody was hurt. That was just the first thing that we were thinking of. And then, from there, I think the shock maybe set in and it was like, okay, what do we do next? Thankfully, the police were on the scene. They already had the police report ready. The owner of the building came out and we had so much support from other small businesses at the Dill Pickle Food Co-op. And I honestly, there was so much going on. I couldn't even name everyone that came out, but we had so much support already from the community here by the time I got here, and it was really, really appreciated.
It really is amazing that no one was hurt in this whole situation. So where do you go from here with things? I mean, you're boarded up now. Are you closed until further notice? Are you still having a way to operate?
So we are closed currently. You can probably hear some of the construction. The crews are on site rebuilding. We did a lot yesterday to clean up the space as much as possible. We've been working with our insurance, who's working with the driver's insurance. In the end, I think we will be okay. It might just take us a little while to get back on our feet. That said, if you're familiar with our store in Logan, we have 2 storefronts that are connected to each other. So we are aiming to get our main storefront, 2710 North Sawyer, open tomorrow. And actually on the other side of this wall, we have a muralist right now who's creating a paint by number mural on the boards. And we're inviting the community to come out this Saturday and Sunday. And, people have been asking how they can help. Like, if you want to pitch in and fill in a little spot on the mural, that's awesome. We would love to have you here and sort of beautify our neighborhood. And we'll be open for business tomorrow at 11 a.m.
What a wonderful thing. And I'm sure if you're already hearing from members of the community that you'll have that many more people to come out and help you really get back on your feet. I mean, do you have an expected time frame for the rest of the store?
So our landlord has been amazing, is working like really around the clock to try to get this back up and running for us. We're thinking by the end of next week, we'll have glass here behind me. And then from there, we can start putting together the pieces inside the store. We'll have to get more inventory and more fixtures in here. So the first step should hopefully be completed by the end of next week. And then we'll go from there. We're sort of reimagining what this space can be as we rebuild it. We're not people to let bad things get us down. We know bad things happen, and it's just a matter of being resilient and seeing what beautiful we can make out of a tragic situation.
Well, I certainly love your disposition and your positive outlook on things. If people are unfamiliar, let's say somebody is watching right now and they're unfamiliar with Lost Girls Vintage, just give them a bit of a spiel about what you all offer and will be offering, and what they should know about you all.
Yeah, so we have 2 shops here in Chicago, one right here in Logan Square, one in Wicker Park. We sell vintage clothing and accessories, as well as modern pieces that are made by small brands and other small makers and artists. We try to be a welcoming space to welcome everyone through our doors and make them feel like they're a part of our community. We don't just want to be a store that takes up space. We really want to be a part of the community and create experiences and opportunities and a safe place for people to come together. So we're inviting people to do that. Come grab a coffee with your neighbor, put a little paint on a wall, or just say hi. That means so much.
Well, again, thank you for what you all have brought to the community. I am so sorry that this has happened to you all, but I know with your positive outlook on things that things will turn around in good time for you all, and it'll be much better in the end, I'm sure, than where you all even began. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for your well wishes. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I'm sure people will come out to help you this weekend, too. You take care.
You too. Thanks.
All right. It's about 1:58, everyone. And I certainly hope, again, that people will support these ladies as they get back on their feet. And none of us knows the moment things could change for us, but they have poured so much positivity in the community. It's always a wonderful thing if we can pour a little positivity back into them, especially in an unfortunate time for them. All right. Let's get in a 2-minute break, everybody, and then I'll set you up for where we're going in the 2 o'clock hour. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're now in our 2 o'clock hour here on Chicago Live. Certainly appreciate you staying with us, or for anyone who just joined, thank you for being here. Let's talk a little bit about where we're going in this hour. We do know that we're going to talk about a new technology, malware essentially, that's being used to hack iPhones a little bit later on in the hour. This dark sword that we're now getting a warning about. We'll be able to find out a little bit more information about that. For the longest time, you kind of thought that iPhones were like unhackable, but this is kind of changing perspective on that. And so we'll get more information about it. Really looking forward to also finding out more about the Chatham Wellness Fair. We love what's hearing about what's happening in various communities in our area, especially as we go into the weekend. There's so much that's going to be happening here, there, and everywhere. This is one of those opportunities to really highlight the good in our community and the things that people are putting together that look after the health and wellness of our community members, so that we're all around for a little bit longer, or have the education at least to do better in our lives. But first and foremost, we want to have a conversation with one of the contributors that we talked to yesterday. Do a little bit better with it today, though. We're going to have Sam Ori, the executive director at the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Growth, as well as the executive director at the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago, joining me now. We couldn't see you yesterday. I'm not sure if it was ever us or you, but we can see you today, and you gave us such great information. We said, let's try it again.
Happy to be back.
So, you have worked extensively when it comes to policy about energy, and we're in the midst of this conflict in Iran where oil prices are soaring. The latest information I'm seeing is that U.S. warplanes and attack helicopters have ramped up assaults against Iranian drones and naval vessels in an effort to try to clear the Strait of Hormuz, or reopen, I should say, the Strait of Hormuz. What are your thoughts on where we are with the Strait of Hormuz and its importance to the world?
Yeah, so as we talked about yesterday, getting the strait back open is really job number one to get the energy crisis back on track and try to get a de-escalation in fuel prices. And so it's pretty clear, I think, that the administration has announced that essentially the battle to reopen the Strait of Hormuz is underway. There's military assets already in the region now that are targeting the Iranian attack ships and mine-laying ships that have been impeding traffic. There's an additional deployment that was announced today of additional Marines and additional ships to the region. So it's very clear that the administration realizes that job number one is reopening the strait. I think that it does sort of cut both ways. And what I mean by that is, on one hand, yes, once the strait is reopened, like that is the path to getting this crisis, at least in energy markets, resolved. On the other hand, I think this escalation probably reflects the idea that this is not going to be so simple, and that this is not going to be a 2 or a 3 week thing. This is a pretty significant escalation by the U.S. to send more troops and to send more ships. And so my takeaway from it is that there's increasing realization that this is going to go on for longer than was originally expected, and is going to require a pretty significant military commitment in the region, which is we're kind of climbing what I would call like the escalation ladder. Those troops will now be in harm's way in the Strait, in the Persian Gulf, and it's I think a lot will depend on how Iran responds to that, whether the troops and the ships are successful in their objective of opening the strait, or whether this is really just continued escalation to higher intensity conflict.
Yeah, going into the conflict, obviously with anything that puts our American troops' lives at risk, there's always going to be why we should and why we shouldn't arguments there. There were many that believed that the Iranian regime that was in place posed a significant risk, and has so for a number of decades, really, and this may have been the best opportunity to take them out and to change things. But do you think that this was really a miscalculation going into this, not considering the Strait of Hormuz itself and how to protect that avenue?
Well, this has been this is something that geopolitical analysts, security analysts, energy market analysts have long warned that conflict with Iran in the Persian Gulf would likely lead to attempts to inhibit traffic through the strait. I think that it does seem to have caught U.S. military planners off guard, the degree to which Iran has been able to completely shut down traffic through the strait, and the impacts of that. I think from the U.S. perspective, it's easy to enter a conflict like this, or a scenario like this where energy markets are going to be in play, and to feel like, well, we produce a lot of oil here, we produce a lot of natural gas here. And so, we're somewhat insulated from these things. I think that in particular, just speaking from an energy perspective, which is what I know best, I think that is a major miscalculation. These are ultimately global markets. And, I just kind of taking a look before we were going to talk today about what have been the big changes since yesterday. Obviously, the escalation, the military escalation is a big one. The other thing that I'm noticing is that you're starting to see across Asia and Europe some pretty, I would say, startling, measures being put in place to conserve fuel, to conserve energy. This crisis now is not just a price crisis in Asia and Europe. It's becoming increasingly a supply crisis because, many refined products like jet fuel and heating oil and, liquefied petroleum gas come out of the Persian Gulf to Asian and European markets. And so, you're seeing some pretty shocking things. Thousands of flights have been canceled now in Europe because the price of jet fuel in Europe has doubled since the start of the conflict. You're seeing things like 4-day work weeks in some Asian countries. You're seeing a rationing of air conditioning in some Asian countries where rules are being put in place that you can't run your AC to get the building below 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Pakistan canceling of schools. Schools are closed in Pakistan now for the next 2 weeks because they don't want to run the ACs. So I would say, it's important to understand these places that might sound far away to most Americans, but these are global markets. And ultimately what's going to happen is those countries are going to go into the market and they're going to bid up the price of things like natural gas and oil and refined products because they need those things. And so the price is going to ripple through the global market. And that it's only a matter of time before that makes its way here. I would say I'm looking at what's happening in Europe and Asia and thinking this is really just the canary in the coal mine before, already elevated prices in the United States get to be something that I think many Americans are going to be kind of shocked by. And so it does just bring back, to your question, I think it really brings us back to, it would have been good to have greater planning for security of supply through the strait. And I think we're at the point now where the administration realizes that's essential. They're going to do what they can to get traffic through the strait flowing again. But I think it does carry pretty significant risks that this leads to, further escalation on both sides, and in fact, additional conflict and a longer timeline before the strait is reopened.
And when we talk about shocking prices, I mean, just seeing oil go to 109, or I think even someone said 120 at some point in time this week per barrel. Have we hit a ceiling? Is there a such thing as a ceiling? And where are we today?
Yeah, so remember, if you just think back in recent memory, the highest that oil prices have been in recent memory, back in 2008, oil prices spiked to $147, $148 a barrel. We've had price spikes since then during things like the Libyan civil war, during the Russian invasion of Ukraine, prices spiked. But none of those crises, none of those disruptions in oil markets came anywhere near the size of the disruption that we're talking about with the Strait of Hormuz. Again, just to remind your viewers, you're talking about a fifth of the global oil supply. It's not something that can be replaced on any kind of short-term basis. There's no workaround. And prices are going to go higher. And so you're starting to see major institutions really sound the alarm. Saudi Arabia out today saying that if their strait is not reopened by the end of April, they expect to see oil at $180 a barrel. Goldman Sachs out with a research note this morning saying that if the strait isn't opened, that they expect triple-digit oil through at least 2027. You're seeing now, some of the damage to infrastructure in the region is becoming deeply concerning. We talked a little bit yesterday about the strike, the Israeli and American strike on the South Pars facility in Iran, and then Iran retaliated against Qatar, which owns part of that field as well. Some of that infrastructure damage now today, Qatar is out saying will not be back online for 5 years. So these are things that are now getting baked into the cake that are going to be pretty hard to undo. And you really are starting to see some major institutions come out and say that if this goes on much longer, $140, $150 a barrel, that's going to be pretty far in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, and initially when this all began, President Trump said maybe 4 to 6 weeks. Then it was, well, there's really no set timetable on when it could end, but obviously sooner rather than later. This week, Secretary Hegseth said they were going to need more funding. So, yeah, looking forward, if we don't even have a timetable as to when this is going to end, can we even begin to think of how long it will take to kind of right things back to where they were, at least in terms of global markets or prices that we're seeing for everyday folks in time?
Yeah, the question you're asking really is reflective of the deep uncertainty of this situation. I think in the beginning, part of the reason you haven't seen prices, particularly oil prices in the US and globally, go up more than they have is because the market was under the operating assumption that this was something that was in US control and that this was a supply disruption of choice, which is very different than what's happened in the market in the past. When you have hurricanes that take production offline, or civil war, or the kinds of things that, it really is a large-scale disruption that is, long and unpredictable. In this case, the operating assumption going in was, well, this is a choice the U.S. is making, and the U.S. can choose to end it if the pain gets too high. I think that we kind of are transitioning out of that period if we're not there already. And many parts of this of the disruption now are, in fact, as I said, baked into the cake. These kinds of things, the destruction to infrastructure, the shut-in of wells that will take, even if the conflict stops tomorrow, that will take, weeks to months to get those facilities producing again. That is now no longer in our control. And I think with each passing day, there's many elements of this that are increasingly out of our control. And we don't know what the timeline is going to look like when we, for example, now send additional Marines to the region. We send additional warships to the region. This is a conflict. The battle for Hormuz is underway. We hope that it will be, resolved quickly. But, as a famous military planner once said to me, the enemy gets a vote. And the fact is that Iran may not go along with that. And so I think that you can expect some ongoing conflict in that region for some period of time. And you're seeing very clearly from major institutions, if it goes on past April, if the strait is closed, into May, into June, you're talking about real serious energy market implications.
Wow. A lot for us to wrap our brains around and call you back for, I'm sure, as we try to make sense of this as time goes by. Obviously, we're now in week 3 of this conflict, so could it be 4 weeks? Maybe next week? Who knows that it ends? But the implications, all indications point to the fact that even if it were, like you said, to end tomorrow, we would still need to talk a little bit more about this, a lot more about it for quite some time. Thank you so much for your time yet again today. We certainly appreciate it. You be safe this weekend.
Thanks, you too. Enjoy the great Chicago weather.
All right. Take care. It's 2:13 right now. Let's get in a quick 2-minute break, everyone. 2:16 right now, everyone, and we have an opportunity to learn more about how we can all do better with our health moving into this weekend. Cometta Coleman, the COO of the Chicago Urban League, is joining me now to talk about the Chatham Wellness Fair. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell me about what you want people to get from this fair this weekend.
Absolutely. So, as many people may be aware, there are so many disparities in the health outcomes for Black people across the country, but also certainly here in Chicago. And so, we're holding this fair to help bring more access, to address some of those issues, to help educate community members. We will be offering free screenings, panel discussions with experts and doctors to talk about ways that people can improve their health. Everything from better nutrition to regular doctor's visits. And we'll also have a number of vendors, probably about 30 or 40 vendors, offering various services and resources. And we partner with folks like the Links chapters, the Healthy Living with the Vision Foundation will be offering free vision screenings, free blood pressure screenings, and much more. And also the Howard Brown Help, it will also be supporting this.
Talk a little bit about how access, when I'm listening to all the things that you all are going to be offering, I'm just thinking you're giving access to things that would otherwise cost for people and therefore become cost prohibitive for people. So talk about how access changes outcomes.
That is absolutely right. And so whether that is access is limited because a person might not have health insurance, or maybe because there aren't the appropriate facilities close in their neighborhood that they can get to. A number of things that contribute to limited access. And so this is an opportunity for people right in the Chatham neighborhood. This is our 5th annual Black Wellness Fair, the first time we're holding it in Chatham at our new location, to be able to come right in their neighborhood, and all of these things are being brought directly to them, because so often people are busy with their day-to-day life and either they can't afford it or maybe they can't get across town to the doctor. Or even if you have health insurance, we know that oftentimes it is hard to get in to see a doctor in a timely manner. It takes a long time to make appointments, and we also just put things off. And so this makes it easy for people.
Yeah, and this is a piece of the pie for the Chicago Urban League. For people who may be unfamiliar with the other things that you all offer throughout the year, talk a little bit about you all's mission.
Oh, absolutely. So in a nutshell, our mission really is to work toward racial and economic equity for Black Chicagoans. And that is that we believe that everyone should have the opportunity for economic empowerment. And so the ways that we do that, we have a number of levers. So we do workforce development trainings. We help people prepare for jobs, get certifications, and then actually connect them to job opportunities. We support people in terms of becoming homeowners. We know that home ownership is one of the pathways to wealth building. And so we really have first-time home buyer classes that people can participate in and get their home buyer certificates. We have youth programming. We partner with several schools in the Chicago public school system, as well as in the south suburbs, to really enhance the educational experiences of young people. And we support business owners and entrepreneurs, right? So we provide resources to help them really strengthen, grow, and scale their businesses. And, one of the things that is really important to realize is that they're all related. And so while we don't necessarily have a specific health focus, what we see all the time is that either people can't get to work because they're sick, or they may have a job that doesn't have insurance. And that if we are not at our best health-wise, there's no way that we can actually ultimately enjoy that economic or even achieve that economic empowerment.
And really, that is exactly what I was going to key in on you with next, was how you all look at equity from a holistic perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're looking at, I talked about racial and economic equity, but it's social equity. So it affects policies and the way that decisions are made that affect the lives of individuals, and particularly negatively might impact the Black community. So we're thinking about all of those things in our approach. And so, whether it's job training to boost your economic position, or home ownership or business ownership. And we also have a leadership development program, because we know not everybody's cut out to be necessarily a business owner, but they may have a job in corporate America or with the state agents or government agency or in nonprofit. And what we really focus on is preparing people to become leaders and gain more responsibility on their job, not just for themselves, but also to take on more civic responsibility in the community to help overall holistically for the lives of the entire city.
You all have been at this for a long time, the Chicago Urban League. Why do you think it's still such a struggle to change the disparities that we see in the city of Chicago?
That is a great question. I always think that wouldn't it be great if we no longer had a need for the Chicago Urban League? The Chicago Urban League has been around this actually will be our 110th year, or the organization's 110th year. And so while there have been so many advances that have come through the work that our organization does, as well as many others across the city and across the country, we know that there are still barriers. And so when you talk about our mission, part of that mission really is to also address systemic change by helping to remove some of the barriers to equity. And so what that might be policy, it might be, the way that cities are set up, or segregation, or, just access, not really necessarily knowing what to do to get ahead. And so we look at it in that way. And there's still, and honestly, if you look at what's happening right now, where we are really in a situation across the country where many of the rights that organizations have fought for are being rolled back or under attack, when we think about, the approach to even just saying the word equity, sort of sets some people off. And so there's a continuing need. It's an ongoing, unfortunately, battle to achieve what we're looking to achieve.
And how do you see you all battling that different as years change?
So that's a great question, because it does change, right? So we try to really keep up with the current trends and what's going on. Like one great example I would say is our Workforce Development Center. So when we think about training people for jobs, we're not thinking about just the job that exists right now. We're looking forward to the future to make sure that people can be prepared for the jobs that we see coming forward in the future. So a great example right now is AI. So our Black Wellness Fair will be held at our new Empowerment Center in Chatham at 8331 South Stewart Avenue. And some of the things that will be happening at that center, which we just moved into in November, include AI training, as well as traditional things like HVAC jobs. We're thinking about the tech future, and what are the ways for us to fight to really pull that lever of economic empowerment. It's not just one thing. Yes, we can train and prepare people for jobs, help them, get prepared to become homeowners. But if there is not policies in place and actual access, it just won't make a difference. And so we really work to keep up with the changes in policy, in just access and opportunity, and really to fight to really have more access and opportunity for Black people.
Congratulations on the new center. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Thank you.
Congratulations on it. What more do you all hope to do with it? It's a beautiful building.
It is. So we're very excited about it, and we will be doing a lot of things there. The primary levers that we will be using there are workforce development, as I mentioned, but also it will be a place to support our entrepreneurs. And so we will offer resources, we offer classes. We actually also partnering with the Chatham Business Association, which will have their offices there to allow us to be able to serve even more small business owners, as well as there's opportunity for the community to use the space, similar to our location in Bronzeville, that we offer reasonable rates for community events, things that uplift the neighborhoods. And so that we're expecting to be able to do a lot there, and we're really excited about it.
Love what you all do. Love that you all are continuing to expand the mission and the footprint to be able to even work on the mission. And let's go back to this weekend. Tell us when and where people need to be, and if they need to bring anything or do anything before they get there.
So the event will be held again at the Chicago Urban League Empowerment Center, 8331 South Stewart Avenue. It will start at 10 a.m. Doors will open at 9:50. We will go until 2 o'clock, and we really encourage people to come and stay all day. There will be a lot to do. There will lots to do, lots to see, and we'll also have refreshments for people. It is perfectly fine for people to come and just walk up and show up without registering, but it would be great if people do register on our website. They can go to chiul.org, chiul.org, and after a couple of seconds, a registration link will pop up on the screen, and you can register right there to join us. And I'm sharing this with you here. For the first 50 people who arrive, there will be a door prize. And so people get there early and come and just enjoy the time with us.
Little bit of breaking news. We love it. We want people to get there early and make sure that you're one of the first 50 that can get the door prize. But seriously, at any point in time that you all can get out, I think this is worthwhile. Carmetta Coleman, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Thank you to the Chicago Urban League for 110 years of great service to the community. Certainly wishing you 110 or more from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope it's full.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right,
Everybody, it's about 2:28 right now. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and then we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everyone. More and more, we find that things that we thought were kind of safe from malware or from hacking just aren't safe anymore. And so I want to go ahead and bring in Rocky Cole, the co-founder and COO of iVerify, to talk about the security researchers who have recently discovered an attack called Dark Sword. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, good evening. Good to be with you. I'd be happy to. There's actually been 2 mass attacks against iPhones in the last 2 weeks. The first was a tool called Karuna, which had its origins in the U.S. Defense Industrial Base and went on this rather strange journey around the world and ended up in the hands of at least 2 threat actors. One group presumed to be associated with the Russian government, and the second actually e-criminals based in China. And this tool was used to silently infect phones that visited popular websites and steal cryptocurrency in the background, as well as use the onboard AI tools to look for photographs with things like skin tone, presumably to pull back compromising photographs that could be used in blackmail. The second attack was one called Dark Sword, the one you're referencing. This attack was a little bit less sophisticated, but it was also what's called a watering hole attack, meaning users who visited popular websites in at least 2 countries had their phones silently infected in the background and vast amounts of their user data exfiltrated.
You know, it all sounds incredibly complicated and quite frankly just scary to know that these things are happening. Do we even know the origins of these attacks?
Well, these tools were used by at least 3 threat actors across 4 different countries. One of the threat actors is presumed to be affiliated with the Russian government, and presumably they were using these tools for espionage purposes, building things like Pattern of Life to assist with their intelligence operations. The other group was a criminal organization, and they were doing nothing more than stealing personal data and stealing cryptocurrency for pure financial gain.
Is there a way to prevent this kind of stuff?
That's a good question. I agree. Apple released some guidance suggesting that users should patch their phones immediately. I strongly agree with that guidance, but I will also add there are a category of attacks against phones that use something called zero-day vulnerabilities. That means that there's no patch available and there's no remediation that can be applied. And in those situations, I really urge people, and especially businesses, to turn to lessons learned from securing their desktop machines, which means you use a really robust security tool on that computer called endpoint detection and response. And I think given the sophistication and growing prevalence of these kind of attacks against iPhones, I think it's time that businesses start considering running an EDR tool on their phones as well.
I think that we hear about this so often that some people get in a sense of, I don't know, just not a lackadaisical approach to it, but kind of like the information is going to get out there anyhow. We don't have a way of stopping this from happening. So what am I doing? Stretching my brain about how to keep it from happening. What do you say to people who are just like, listen, it's going to happen one way or the other?
I hear you. There's definitely a learned sense of helplessness out there. But what I would say is we have done a pretty good job of securing our other digital tools. We know how to secure our laptops. We know how to secure our cloud environments. It's really no mystery. There are solutions to this problem. I think the learned helplessness that you're describing is frankly a barrier to people securing themselves. If you look into the business community, there absolutely has been, I think, a lackadaisical attitude towards mobile security in particular. I think there's been a bit of a desire for an unhackable endpoint. And there's no such thing as an unhackable computer, unfortunately. And I think these attacks just show the growing sophistication, the growing prevalence of attacks on mobile phones mean that we're going to have to start taking proactive steps to secure these devices beyond hoping that they're secure out of the box.
Yeah, and do you see that that the criminals' approach is just becoming more and more sophisticated?
It is. It's fairly unprecedented for a criminal organization to use a remote exploit tool to steal cryptocurrency off of a phone. I'm not aware of that ever happening before. And I think that shows that the value of these tools on the market for, there's markets that resell these kind of tools. The value of these tools is plummeting because there's more of them. There's more supply than ever. And so I would expect to see more of these kind of attacks going forward and not less, unfortunately.
Yikes, that is not what we want to hear at all. For someone in your field, tell us a little bit more about iVerify first and foremost.
Right. We are a mobile security platform, and this is protecting businesses against this type of attack is exactly what we do for a living. We see subtle signs of compromise and lock down corporate systems before the attackers have the ability to exfiltrate data. And we also secure the device against threats from malicious applications, as well as other threats like smishing. You've probably received a scam text message with a link in it. Hopefully you didn't click on it. We can help protect people from those kind of things as well.
Yeah. Actually, earlier today we were talking about these scam texts that were going out to people that look like they're coming from the Cook County Clerk's Office or even from the Illinois Tollway. It just feels like the scammers are kind of coming at us from so many different levels these days.
Absolutely. The threat actors are evolving their tactics rapidly. They always have, and that innovation continues to this day.
So what are the things that you all look for?
Well, the types of threats that we're talking about here, remote exploitation of iPhones and Android phones. We detect those and then can send signals back to a corporate environment to lock it down. You also mentioned scam text messages. We have a really good solution that detects scams in text messages. And we can do things like send those text messages right to the spam folder where they belong, and also block what's called voice phishing calls. A lot of these scam text messages are designed to get you on the phone with someone who might pretend to be from an IT help desk or to your point, a toll collector. But once they get you on the phone, they try to steal your personal information. They try to ask for what payment systems you use. They try to get you to give up your passwords, and then they use those passwords to log in as you and transfer money or get you to send money to a fake address. We can block all of that to prevent people from ever getting in touch with those sorts of scam artists.
Do you think the government is doing enough where this is concerned, where this kind of leading edge of things is concerned to protect us? Or is it even something that they can get a handle of?
I think there are things the government can do. For example, I think the federal government should lean on the phone makers to make more signals available to the security community to detect these kinds of threats. The phone makers make it very hard to actually look inside the operating system and verify that the system has integrity. But unfortunately, what we've seen is actually less spending on cybersecurity from the federal government, not more. And in fact, we're seeing the federal government look to private companies to pick up, to do the lion's share of the work these days. So unfortunately, I'm not sure the government is going to come to the rescue here either.
Okay, I'm going to ask you kind of provocative question here, if you're ready for it. So are Apple or Android fans worse at this type of thing?
That's a fun question. I think they have similar threats. They're just different, right? So Apple has done a really, really good job of having a very clean and safe application store. Their app store, malicious applications almost don't exist in the Apple ecosystem. And I really applaud Apple for that. Their operating system, on the other hand, is a walled garden. It's encrypted. The security research community cannot look into it easily. And as a result, it's a very fertile hunting ground for zero-day vulnerabilities. And that is indeed what we're seeing with threats like Corona and Darksword. Now, Android, on the other hand, it's a completely open platform. It's transparent. Indeed, it's open source. But that presents a different type of problem. It's a very fragmented ecosystem. And what we're seeing is that malicious apps in the Android ecosystem are a much bigger problem for that platform than Apple.
Okay, very interesting indeed. I would love for you to talk about the changing landscape for young people who are thinking about what to major in college when it comes to this arena of hacking and the malware that's out there. I mean, it seems like we need more good minds, more young minds coming up to say, no, I can figure out how to protect you.
Yeah, the cybersecurity community is one of the, I think, few industries that is growing at the moment in the face of widespread adoption of AI tools, because AI is a double-edged sword in the security community. It can certainly benefit attackers. It lets them find vulnerabilities faster, but it also benefits the defender, right? The same AI that can be used to build exploits can be used to catch exploits. And I would actually say that the defenders maybe even have a slight advantage there in the sense that there's a whole community built around cybersecurity. There's a lot of really very good professionals who care deeply about their work. And so I would say to a young person, if they want a really rewarding and fulfilling career, learn how to build and use really good AI tools. And I think the future would be bright for them in the cybersecurity industry.
It's a different world for sure, both the dark side of it and also the opportunities that it gives people as well. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise.
It's my pleasure, and thanks for having me on.
All right, everyone, it's 2:43. Let's take a quick 2-minute break.
All righty, thank y'all. Am I good to go?
Okay, welcome back, everyone. 2:45 right now, and is your bracket busted already? We are in the midst of March Madness, and it can be a lot of fun. Sure, it can be exciting, exhilarating. There's the thrill of victory, agony of defeat, all of those things, but it can also get pretty complicated and even dangerous for some. It is rare that I say, that I speak to a Wall Street Journal columnist and say that the person is also a college student, but Eli Thompson is both. And thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today. I really appreciate having you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about your latest column that really took off.
Yeah, so I wrote about how young men have really bet a lot on sports, and they've lost a lot of money doing it. I've had a lot of friends who have bet on sports games, and they've lost money, and they've not just lost money, and it's not just a financial impact, but it's also a social impact. I had a lot of this problem, and saw a lot of this problem in high school, and it only seemed to get worse as it went to college. But also, my friends didn't just withdraw financially, have problems financially, but they withdrew socially as well.
And when I think of being in college, I think of being broke. So how are they affording this for it to get really bad?
Yeah, lots of times it's from their money, money they might have set aside for, debt, potential debt, or, if they want to buy a car. But sometimes it's also their parents' money that they use. And, both of them are problematic.
For sure, especially if it's going to your parents' money, or even the money that you've set aside maybe for an emergency, because this would not be one. When we say dangerous, I mean, what are some of the situations you've seen people end up in?
Yeah, a lot of them have lost a lot of money, $400, $500, like I talked about in the article. But also, I thought the bigger impacts were not just financial, but social, like I talked about. I think, you know, how I saw my friends withdraw, not be there socially as much, struggle in school, struggle with sports. I think that's a bigger impact that, really needs to be talked about because, lots of that money can be earned back. I've heard of stories, but I didn't see any of my friends lose, $1,000. But I think the social impact is a bigger part of it than just the financial aspect.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about that because things have changed a lot. We're not just talking about fill out a bracket anymore. For sports betting, it is big business, and from a social aspect, and especially for your generation, a lot of this betting is like a fingertip away.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's a good amount of apps that you can bet on as just an 18-year-old. A lot of apps that are only 21 plus. I've had friends before be able to get on and access those apps, whether it was an older sibling or an older friend. But there's a lot of apps that are just 18 plus. Like I'm 19 years old. There are a lot of apps that I could just use on my phone right now, and I'd be able to bet on whatever game I wanted to.
So why do you think your column took off so much? Why do you think it resonated with people so much?
Because I think it's a problem really facing my generation. Sports betting has really taken off. You see the commercials everywhere. Kevin Hart, all these celebrities that are doing these ads, but it presents a real problem that isn't talked about as much. People know that betting can be addictive, can be a problem, can lose money, but it really hasn't been this way among younger kids before. And I think this has really become a problem because of how normalized it is and how easy and how accessible it is for young kids like me and my friends.
Mm-hmm. What do you think we as adults who are maybe older should do differently when it comes to guiding your generation or even the younger generation that's coming behind you?
Yeah, I think in high school and, even middle school, we're taught about the dangers of drugs, alcohol, all those things. I think this needs to be one of those things as well. I think it's kind of made a smaller problem. I think it needs to be made a bigger problem because a lot of these losses that you can make, $400, $500, they can have a big impact when you're starting out your career, when you're 22 years old, when you're just out of college and you lost money that you would have set aside. I think that's a big deal, and I think it needs to be talked about the same way that drugs and alcohol are because it is addictive and it can become very problematic very soon.
What would you like to see schools maybe implement more or talk about more for students?
Yeah, I think they need to talk about how serious of a problem it is and how bad it can get very quickly. I've had a lot of friends who have just started out betting small amounts, and it becomes very problematic very quickly because they lose bets on games. They bet $10, $20, and then all of a sudden they're losing a lot more, and it becomes very problematic to lose a lot very quickly.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of engaging with your friends who do seem to be with drawing, falling into, bad patterns or habits. How do you approach that? How would you like to see people approach it?
Yeah, I think the biggest point is that a lot of kids who, start out betting small amounts, they don't think it's a problem. They think it's okay. I can lose $5, $10 here. And then they become very close. They almost win. They have a parlay that they win 4 of the 5 bets on. And, I'm bound to win the next time. And they keep betting and they keep losing. And I think they need to watch out. They need to be told by their parents, by, even their other friends that, they're not bound to win, and that they need to really watch out because it can go bad fast.
Yeah, and I really would love to know, since your column has come out, what your friends' reaction has been like. Have most of your friends read it? And what's the reaction been like?
Yeah, I've had a reaction I since transferred since the piece came out. And so I've had a lot of friends who have talked about, among their friends that, I had one of my friends lost, like my roommate told me that he had a friend that lost $1,000. Like, this is not just a problem that's, far out there. This is not just like, 1 in every 10, 20 kids. Like, this is a real problem that's happening with a lot of kids we know, and a lot of kids in general.
Yeah. What does it mean to you now, now that you're a Wall Street Journal columnist? What does it mean to you to have this weight, if you will, to your voice, to know that your voice carries the power for people to listen from all corners of the country?
I just think that it's important to write about, what's going on. And I just want to know, I want, whatever piece I'm working on or whatever publication it's for, that, people understand the problems that face our generation.
Eli, are you a journalism student? What's your major?
Yeah, I'm a journalism student at Indiana University.
Well, tell me a little bit about what you're hoping to do with your degree when you get it.
Yeah, I'm just hoping to work as a journalist, hoping to write stories that, face my generation and that impact us and that impact us every day, that might not be covered by the national news as much, but that have a major impact on our generation.
What are some of the other issues that you think we're not addressing right now?
I think one major issue that's, really rose up among young men is the rise of peptides. This is something that really just recently came about, but it's a problematic use because most kids my age don't understand the impacts of, drugs like substances like peptides, and it's becoming normalized, and I think it's becoming harmful to many kids my age.
Mm-hmm. And for traditional media, how would you like to see us change? It's a changing industry. You're getting ready to come into it. What do you want to see different in the future?
Yeah, I think it focus on more voices and focus on a lot of issues that might not be covered as much, but really have an impact on my generation. That's why I started writing, because I thought, my first article was about the rise of the Tate brothers and far right influencers. And I think it's important that, there's a lot of really underreported issues among young men and young people in general. I think those voices need to be lifted up and need to be heard because they really impact the next generation.
Eli, you're a smart young man. It was great speaking with you today. Thank you for using your voice in such a way that you have, and I'm wishing you all the best in the future. I know you have a bright future ahead.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You take care. Have a good, safe weekend ahead.
You too.
Okay. Take care. It is great to be able to have a conversation with the next generation of journalists out there. And for sure, the industry that I walked into will not be the industry that they walk into, and that each one of us brings something different from our life experiences and from our different generations into newsrooms. So Eli will be bringing a wealth of knowledge from his own when he graduates and even is ready right now. Again, a Wall Street Journal columnist already as a student there at the University of Indiana. Let's get in a 2-minute break, everyone, and then I'll set you up for where we're going in our 3 o'clock hour, our final hour for the week here of Chicago Live. All right, welcome back, everyone. Just about 3 o'clock. And so let's talk about what we have for this final hour of Chicago Live for the week. And right around 3:45, looking forward to a conversation with the Mean Girls. And no, I do not mean mean as in off-putting or people who actually bully. It's actually a mentoring program here in the city of Chicago. And MEAN stands for Manage Emotions, Avoid Negativity. They have a girls summit that's coming up tomorrow, and they are looking to do wonderful things here in the city for our young ladies so that they can prosper and become strong women in the future. We're going to talk to them a little bit about what they are anticipating for their summit. And I believe that is in Inglewood tomorrow. So that's coming up around 3:45. 3:30, going to bring in meteorologist Mark Strell to talk about the weather outside. Everybody's excited. We've been taking live looks out at the Bean. It is packed out there. It's been a while since we've been able to really get outside and just enjoy ourselves without having to wrap up in 5 layers or rush off because a storm is coming in. So we've got a couple of days where we can just chill, just enjoy the weather, and we'll talk about a few wrinkles in the time frame to come, but enjoy for now. Also, we look forward to hearing about the new addition to the Lincoln Park Zoo. They have an endangered rhino that they just got. Oh my goodness. I hope that they have some pictures that they can show us, or maybe that they're out there. I don't know if that's too much to ask, that we'll actually be able to see the rhino today, but we'll be able to talk about the rhino for sure so that we can make plans to go see it. But first and foremost, I want to bring in Sharita Ellens, the president of Women Employed, who is a member of the Coalition for Transforming Higher Education Funding and the Commission on Equitable Public University Funding here in the state of Illinois. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me today, Anita.
I'm very interested in how you all approach this time of the year when the legislature is active and they're having conversations that will shape where we go in terms of higher education in our state.
So one of the things that we're focused on, and we have been focused on for a few years now, is passing the Adequate and Equitable Public University Funding Act. And this act is a balanced solution that would provide sustainable funding for our public universities, which will be the first of its kind because we don't currently have an existing funding formula for our public universities. So this would allow us to put in place an adequate and equitable funding formula. It will allow us to bring some much needed support in sustainability for our public universities, and enabling them to strengthen their institutions and their student support. And it will also allow us to put in place provisions around accountability and transparency. So there's a lot of discussions going around the General Assembly around this both the funding formula and the act, and the coalition includes advocates like our organization with Women Employed and several other partners at the table, but also the universities are at the table along with our chief bill sponsors, Leader Lightfoot and Representative Carol Emmons.
Tell me about the status of public universities in our state right now.
So we're at a place where, thankfully, since the Pritzker administration, we have experienced some increase in investments. But prior to the Pritzker administration, we have seen steadily decrease in investment since 1990. So at its peak, Illinois was spending about 13% of its revenue on higher education. Now it's closer to 2%. The national average, for context, is 15%. In 2008, the state covered 75% of the cost to attend a public university in Illinois, and with families and students making up the remaining 25%. Today, that has entirely shifted. The state is only covering about 35% of the cost, and families are now covering 65% of the cost. And again, for context, the national average is 60% being covered by the state and 40% being covered by families. And you can imagine in a moment where, families are struggling, the federal government is challenging funding for our public institutions around research and financial aid and all these things, is creating such a strain and an affordability crisis for our students to be able to stay in state, is also posing some really putting the institutions in really some tough positions to make choices, unfortunately, around increasing tuition or cutting student supports, which all have an impact on student success, both in terms of enrollment and in persistent and attainment to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, that the enrollment aspect of it in and of itself, I mean, we see a lot of people who have maybe the full ability to enroll, to matriculate through four-year universities who are making other choices based on affordability.
And a lot of our students are leaving the state, right? And so because our surrounding states, Indiana, Wisconsin, Missouri, they are saying, hey, come here, we got you, right? And they are, putting together packages that actually make it more affordable for our students to go out of state for school, which poses a problem for our workforce because we know that if you stay in state, typically you may stay in state afterwards and work. But also our enrollment declines. The statewide enrollment fell by close to 20,000 students, or 9% decline since 2010. That was based off of 2024. And that was the steepest enrollment decline in the nation.
Wow.
Right. And the funding also poses an issue where our tuition costs are high. So right now, Illinois ranks in the top 10 in terms of cost for our public universities. And so for our students that can't leave the state because they have family responsibilities or they are non-traditional student or whatever the barrier might be, it is just making it inaccessible and unaffordable for a large portion of our population, including our rural students, our first generation students, our low income students, and our Black and Latinx students. And so this policy is really meant to infuse our institutions with the support, with the financial support they need to be able to adequately serve their unique student population, because we also know that all of our universities are very unique and the student populations at those schools are very unique as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about students who may choose a school in a different state so that they can make that math for their future, we actually spoke with an enrollment specialist from Notre Dame yesterday. They have a new program in order to fully cover the cost of tuition for students whose families make like less than $150,000, and they had tiers for what they could cover for those whose families made less than $200,000. I mean, there were all of these incentives again that may take some of the students that you're looking to keep in the state right over the state line to bring them into Indiana.
And just think about Notre Dame is a highly selective school. So if we're losing students to Notre Dame, we're losing our top tier students. And that's a problem. The Illinois does have programs in place though. I do want to recognize that we've been doing a lot of work, especially under, since Governor Pritzker, a lot of work to help retain some of our students. So there are scholarships in place for students that are from Chicago to go to one of our public institutions around if their GPA is at a certain level. There are, we are constantly making sure that we are pumping money into our MAP program, which is our monetary award program for financial need. But that's, that's a segment of our population. It's not all of our students, but it certainly helps. But it does not fully cover all of the costs because our costs are high. And so it pushes students to have to take out student loans. Well, now we see that there are changes coming from the federal administration on what you can borrow, who can borrow, and how much you can borrow. But again, putting this burden on our families to kind of figure things out and making it so that higher education is becoming a privilege and not a right. And that is so problematic because we know that higher education continues to be one of the strongest pathways to ensure that you are on a path of economic mobility, that we can continue to close the income and wealth gap. And so we have to make sure that all of the measures are putting in place, namely this formula is, we believe, is foundation to that. But we are looking at several things to put in place to make sure that we can make Illinois attractive to our students, accessible and affordable.
When it comes to the things that you all are working to put in place, do you feel like your ideas, your proposals are being met with a welcome, if they are welcomed as a part of possible policy in the future, or a very near future? Or do you feel like you're being met with, hey, we're kind of shifting priorities here?
It's a mix, and I don't know that it's the issue or barriers are around shifting priorities. One of the barriers is obviously cost, right? To increase the investment, to get our schools at a place where, they can adequately serve our schools is a huge investment over the next 10 to 15 years. But it's still only a fraction of our overall. But in this moment where Illinois is facing a budget deficit, in this moment where we're facing cuts from the federal government that typically we were able to depend on for research or innovative projects, or basic, we're also dealing with SNAP and Medicaid and all those other things. It becomes it's a priority, but it's got to be weighed with all of the other priorities too. So that's one of the barriers that we are attempting to overcome. The other is around making sure that we have accountability and transparency measures in place to make sure that when we make this investment into these institutions, that the dollars are really going to do what we are intending for them to do. And so that's another sticking point. And then the third is, when this formula, right, is built on data, and this formula is around adequacy, which makes sure that we're accounting for each university's unique mission and cost. It is focused on equity, which prioritizes support for underrepresented students and underfunded institutions. And then the third piece of it is stability. But anytime you mention equity, right, in this moment that we're in, institutions are fearful as to what that would mean for them, and how will they be challenged, and how will we as a state be challenged when we put this in place. The one thing about this formula, though, is that it's so data informed. And so when we think of underrepresented students, we're using current data. Who's currently underrepresented, which is why we know that it's rural students, it is low income, first generation, and Black and Latinx students. And we can use that data to show that this isn't about race, but it is about where is the need, and how do we ensure that our institutions are accessible and available to everyone and anyone who wants to go and get a 4-year education.
And as you said, it means so much to the state moving forward when you think about that workforce pipeline coming from public institutions here in the state. Thank you so much for sharing with us a bit of your mission for this legislative session. I look forward to hearing an update on where things stand once it's over.
We will keep you posted, and you will see us celebrating once we get this act passed.
All right. Please come back on. Tell me all about it. Take care. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right. It's about 3:15, everyone. Let's get in another 2-minute break. Welcome back, everyone. It's 3:17. Can't wait to go out to the Lincoln Park Zoo to take a look at their newborn. We're talking about a critically endangered eastern black rhinoceros that's there now. Rachel Valentis is joining me now. She's the zoological manager of large mammals and carnivores. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I'm only slightly disappointed that our little baby rhino is not with you right now.
Me too.
Tell us all about him.
So our new little bundle of joy was born yesterday morning, March 19th, around 6:52. It is a female, so it's a little girl. This is Mom Kapuki, is 20 years old. This is her third calf, but her first girl. And her dad, Utenzi, is 21. It's also his third calf and also his first girl, but their first calf together. So we are excited to have another little lady running around. We don't know how much she weighs. We're estimating about 60 pounds or so. They can be about 60 to 80 when they're born, but she's doing really well. So she's up, she's running around, she's following Mom around, she's nursing really well, which is a really important milestone for her early on especially.
Oh, do you all have like some webcams up so that we can like go crazy over watching them 24/7?
I wish. That is generally how we as care staff are monitoring the calf and mom right now. We want to give them their privacy and the ability to bond and get into a good pattern of resting and nursing and all of those really important things that you need as a new mom and as a new baby, right? So as far as the public, unfortunately not. It's something that we are staring at pretty well 24/7. Mine's right here. But otherwise, we're just going to keep you all posted through our social media outlets and our website. So stay tuned.
Tell us why they're endangered.
That's a really good question. So yeah, an eastern black rhinoceros, there's only about 1,000, estimated to be about 1,000 adults left in the wild of this subspecies of rhino. And most of it is honestly humans, unfortunately. So they're hunted for poaching for their horns, as well as habitat loss. So they live in the eastern and southern areas of Africa, and those places are, losing forestation and just losing habitat for these animals to be able to thrive. And then poaching is always an issue with this particular species and rhinos in general, actually.
Mm-hmm. So how does you all's work change that?
We do a lot of things where we can learn about them. So just this information alone, being able to track her pregnancy, to be able to track the birth and kind of what we're seeing as she develops and as she hits these milestones, can help us to gain more knowledge so that we can help those in the wild to be able to give them what they need as far as resources, and as we can continue to conserve their habitat and work to end poaching and that sort of thing. We know what they also need to survive, so that we know when we're moving towards conservation projects and working with our SAFE program, which is our Saving Animals from Extinction, this particular species is a part of as well. We know what we need, so that we know what we need to provide, if that makes sense.
Oh, look at the picture of the baby. Oh my goodness. Now I'm seeing that our little baby rhino will gain 100 pounds a month.
Yes, so they gain quickly, and most of those large animals do. So they will be sustained on mom's milk. She might graze on a little stuff here and there, but generally it's just like a novelty exploration. But she eats a lot, and she already eats a lot, which means mom is eating a lot and drinking a lot of water. So that's kind of what we're monitoring right now to make sure mom's getting the nutrients she needs so she can support her calf in giving the milk that the calf needs to thrive and to grow and gain all that weight so quickly.
What do rhinos eat?
That's a good question. So eastern black rhinos are a browsing species, so they have they're designed to eat leaves and things. So generally they'll pull off shrubs, sometimes low-hanging trees, things like that. Here at the zoo, we feed them a couple different types of hay. We also give them browse, so tree branches and leaves, which they of course love. We also give them a specially formulated grain for their specific, for their species and for what they need nutritionally, as well as some fruits and veggies, which they love.
What kinds of fruits and veggies?
Oh gosh, all sorts of different stuff. So they have a whole list of things that our nutrition staff can choose from. So they have a couple different types of lettuces, so romaine, endive, things like that. They'll also get carrots. They have some favorites as far as sweet potatoes, green peppers, tomatoes. We give them green beans, not their favorite, but they do eat it. So there's a lot of variety with what they're getting. They like apples, they like bananas, but yeah, quite a bit of variety within their diet.
Oh, I'm learning so much today. I mean, how is it for you to like watch them grow up, to watch their family expand?
It's wonderful. I've been really lucky in my career that I've been able to be a part of a lot of different births with a lot of different species. And it's one of those things that never gets old. Being able to be there and watch an animal that you love be a mom and go through that process, and then watching a little one join our zoo family and grow and thrive, and being able to learn about this new animal and learn what they like and what they don't like, and all about their personalities. And every animal is different, even within a species. So learning someone new is always really exciting for us.
Oh my goodness. Now, let's talk about when people can come out and see our new little one. What are our parameters here? Because folks want to race out and see all the things as well.
Yeah, I believe it. I would believe it. So we don't have a perfect timeline. The calf may be outside as early as a month, but honestly, Chicago weather is a thing. It always is. It was winter 3 days ago, and today it's spring again. So it's hard to say what we're actually going to get at the end of April. But we want to make sure that it's warm enough for the calf. We want to make sure that calf and mom are well bonded, and that when we need them to come inside, the calf is going to follow mom inside. Those are really important things just to be able to keep the calf safe as she grows up. We also want to make sure that our yard isn't too muddy. Obviously April showers, right? So we may come into kind of a wet, muddy month, and we want to make sure that she stays safe. So it could be as early as a month, but it could be as long as 2 or 3. We'll just kind of have to see what Chicago throws our way.
Oh, come on, Chicago, behave so that we can see our new little rhino baby. And I'm seeing as we work on our obsession that I'm sure will be growing in time here for the little one, that there is an Adopt an Animal package. Tell me about it.
There is an Adopt an Animal package, and you can find all that information on our website as far as specifics, but it's so stinking cute. So you can get the mom and calf package together. You can get them separately, but I'd recommend them together because that's how they are right now. But it's your opportunity to adopt that animal. You'll get a plush with that. You get a certificate showing that you supported our black rhinos and our new calf and her mom, Kabuki.
I love it. Tell me about, are there some other expecting animals around the zoo right now? I mean, we're coming into spring. It is officially spring today. So typically we expect some babies around spring.
I mean, there's always something that we're watching for, right? And whenever we have something to announce and something to share, you'll see that on all of our social media outlets and with our website and everything like that. There's things we're watching for, there's things we're waiting for, and we'll just have to see what spring brings.
Oh, Rachel, I was trying to get the breaking news out of you. So aside from just watching our new one, kind of grow, will there be some like physical changes that we'll be watching happening over time as well with her?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, of course, is she's born without a horn. So an Eastern black rhino has two horns. The front one is a little bit longer, and then the back one is a little shorter, which you can see with Mount Kapuki. But that doesn't sound comfortable to birth a horned animal.
Oh.
So she currently doesn't have a horn. So that will come with time. It's a slow growing. It's made of keratin, so similar to our fingernails. So we'll see that. Also, right now, she's got these big clunky feet. So they have really big feet, obviously, to be able to support their weight. But they're born with some kind of scrawny little legs. So we will see her fill out as she grows. As you said, she grows very, very quickly. So growing into her clunky feet is going to be something that we'll be looking for as well. She's still very baby right now. She's a day old, so she's got a lot of filling out to do. But those are kind of the big things that we'll see slowly over the first year or so.
Rachel, I'm telling you that the weight that I felt when you said, yes, of course, we'd want the baby to be born without a horn, did not compare to the from the men in the room. Didn't compare. I mean, I was already there, but they went way further. Like, Thank you so much for what you do on a regular basis throughout the year. We just love the Lincoln Park Zoo, and we're so excited for our new addition to the crew, our little rhino.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be able to showcase her and share her with all of you guys. So thank you so much for the interest.
And before I let you go, did we get a name?
We don't have a name yet.
Will there be a naming contest?
I don't honestly know. That's a really good question. I'm sure if it comes that way, you will hear about it. But I haven't heard about it yet.
Oh, I think you all should definitely do a naming contest. I would love to hear what people would name our little one, but for sure, she is our own already, and we love it. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure is. Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care of her. We'll see you soon.
We sure
look
will.
At her.
Thank
Look
you.
at the baby. It's 3:28. I could look at this picture all day. But let's get in a quick 2-minute break. Meteorologist Mark Strell just walked in the room, so we've got to talk about this weather that our little rhino will be experiencing over the weekend after this. welcome back, everyone. 3:31. Look at all those folks out there at the Bean. Beautiful day to get your pictures in. We are overdue, it feels, for the weather that we are experiencing today. If we could only keep it this way, Mark.
Look at that picture. And the people always are doing the same thing. They're standing around, they're looking at the Bean, they're obviously taking some pictures, and then they take a couple of steps to the left or right, and they kind of circulate it like once or twice. I feel like there's a pattern. There's a Bean pattern. Then, of course, you got to go underneath. And I think there's some, psychology involved in the Bean. Maybe knock it in.
A little protocol.
Trying to find out the, see the guys on the left. They're all lined up over there very politely. And, maybe trying to get the guy free from the inside.
You know what? That's been a rumor for a long time.
Is that right? I just heard about it this spring.
There's someone stuck in there.
Which is hysterical,
Or is it?
Or is it? Yeah.
So yes, today is the first day of spring.
First official day.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
And it's finally feeling like it.
Well, you say that because you're a Gregorian. That's according to the Gregorian calendar. Meteorologists, as you know, they divide the year up into 4 equal parts. 3 months of spring, 3 months of summer, 3 months of fall, 3 months of winter.
You all have been in spring.
Seems like, we've been in spring last Monday when it was, 9 degrees and blizzard conditions across the Midwest. But this is when the direct rays of the sun migrate right across the equator, and those direct rays continue to push up into the northern hemisphere, giving us more warmth.
We had talked about going into Chicago Hinge over the next few days, but we had clouds this morning.
And we have a fair amount of clouds out here now. But, Chicago Hinge, it's kind of become a big, it was never a big thing before Instagram. But now we've got to Instagram everything.
Got to take the pictures.
It's just simply when the sun sets due west, and guess what? Chicago, Mr. Burnham, whoever laid the city out, they put it on an east-west grid, north, south, east, west. So it makes sense that when the sun is directly setting in the west, that we're going to see the sun go right down the way. And that's kind of a problem if you're commuting home at night and your sun is coming right
little
over
glare.
Your visor.
Little glare.
So maybe you need to have some Hinge glasses.
Maybe. I'm sure someone will come out with them now that you've said that. You should have put a trademark on it first before you said it.
If you take them off, would you then become unhinged? These are questions I have. Just questions I want to know about.
Let's get to your actual day job.
Okay.
What's the weather going to be like going into the weekend?
I got to tell you, it's pretty sweet. We have temperatures up into the 60s. Today we made it up into the 70s. We're going to be back up into the 60s coming up tomorrow. On Sunday, look at that. I put a 70 there. Look at that. I put a 70.
Man.
Yeah, I don't know my own strength. 60 degrees on your Sunday. And that actually may have to be pulled back a little bit. We may be in the upper 50s, but either way. And that's because you can see the clouds a little bit darker there with a small chance of a sprinkle or a shower. We drop into the 40s on Monday, and then we're right back up into the 50s Tuesday, Wednesday. And you go, Mark, hey, that seems kind of cool, 50s. Well, keep in mind 48 is about normal. So if you hit 55, that's 7 degrees above normal. You can never complain about being above normal.
Yeah.
Right? Like you.
Well,
You're
know
well
what?
above normal.
Well, you know what? In the summer, that's when we complain about being above normal.
True. You know what?
There is a time when we do complain.
I always wish, if you can control the weather, right? Okay, I don't need to control the weather like, it's going to be sunny or I'm going to hit a button that goes boom, 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 hits thunderstorms. But if you could just shave off a couple of points over here and then maybe fill them in January, like when it's 98 degrees, maybe
needed.
take some of those off, bring it back down to maybe, 81 or 82 and kind of, fill in the bumps over there in January.
Just even us out.
But you know what? That's well above my pay grade.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here and not wherever that place would be.
That's right. Okay, so we're kind of going into a nice start to April.
You know,
and to end
we are.
March and to start April.
Yeah, we're looking pretty good. And again, the averages keep ticking up. During this month, we pick up about an hour and a half of additional sunshine. And that sunshine goes a long ways to heating us up and making us feel more temperate. Also a time period where the air masses start to struggle a little bit. They start to clash a little bit. So some areas of showers and thunderstorms. But you know what? Right now we don't see anything too nasty coming our way. The next 7 days calls for fairly temperate conditions and very nice conditions, by the way, coming up over the weekend. And then after that, looking pretty good.
You know, so many people, I think CPS will be on spring break next week. So many people are going to be traveling. It's part of why probably a part of why we have so many people out at the Bean. Another reason is that so many people are on spring break at some point in time during this month. So if people are coming here, things look great. Have you seen any disturbances elsewhere throughout the country?
The biggest disturbance I've seen are the TSA lines.
Well.
And I saw some delays at, I think it was Atlanta Airport today. And you probably have covered this, right?
Extensively.
Did I hear correctly? 4-hour delays? I thought I saw a 4-hour delay at the Atlanta airport, which, you know, like O'Hare is a huge connecting hub.
Yes.
So at this point, I'm more concerned about what's going on there than I am with any weather slowing, you know, air traffic down.
Yeah. I mean, people have, and there's no rhyme or reason to like how early you need to be at the airport to try to get around some of the things. I have not heard of as many issues in terms of O'Hare or Midway.
Right.
Do want to throw that out there. Have not heard or seen them. And now we did see some lines, but nothing extensive, not like we have been seeing at some of the other major airports.
But here's the problem.
Atlanta, Houston.
We start out at a great airport.
That's the problem.
But then we either have to worry about what's going on at the other end, or we are transferring. Well, of course, you don't go through TSA when you transfer, but if there's all this congestion and problems at the other airports, you can imagine it's going to slow down other services as well. So, you know, I just think this is just an incredible time in our history that, you know, this has been allowed to fester.
It's been a lot, and I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon. It doesn't seem like that's going to change anytime soon. And of course, on top of the TSA situation, we did have the weather issues at the beginning of the week, you know, that played a role into what we were seeing and the ripple effects of people. I mean, 400 or 500 cancellations at some of the airports, 800-900 at some airports at the early portion of the week. So I'm hoping that there's nothing kind of out there that's going to cause that while we have this situation with TSA that you know, all of it's really out of our control, but you know, that there's no weather on top of the TSA issues too.
Yeah, it would really be putting salt in the wounds, wouldn't it? And you know, early on Monday we had Monday we had blizzard warnings across parts of Illinois and a good chunk of Wisconsin and Iowa and Minnesota. Now, here's the thing that's interesting about a blizzard warning. It doesn't have to snow to have a blizzard warning.
Okay, talk to us.
That's basically just blowing snow, and that's the type of environment that would shut down an airport. When you have 35, 45, 55 mile an hour winds and you have loose snow that just makes whiteout conditions. I experienced this on Monday. I was down in the valley for most of the day. In town, wasn't much of a problem. I get out of the valley and oh my goodness, I was like on the ice planet Horth.
Really?
Yeah, it was just like night and day.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're glad that you were safe.
I try to stay safe because
listen, we had some, you know, in some of the conditions that we've had over the last, there was the day of just high winds and we had trucks that were blown over, you know,
absolutely.
So we have had a lot of different types of things that are going on, but it feels like we're kind of smoothing out.
I like where you're going with that.
Bit.
Yeah, and certainly within the next 7 days, and that's kind of what we're looking at. I mean, you know, we can come up with trends and different values that may suggest what's going to happen 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, you know, 60 days out. But in reality, where the rubber meets the road, we're talking 7 days. and maybe some trends out towards 10 days.
Yeah.
And that's the trend that looks good right now.
Okay.
That's what I can tell you about.
We'll hold on to that, the beautiful pictures that we're seeing outside, and the ability for everybody to kind of get out and just breathe in a little good air, take in a little more sunshine, and enjoy safely. All right.
Good
thank
words
you so
to live
much
by.
for coming up here. Always appreciate having you up here. We know you got a scoot to get ready for the 4 o'clock, so we'll let him go, and we'll see you in about 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. 2:43 right now. Let's take a look at how things shaped up on the stock market today. Ooh. Yesterday we had that small blip of green, like what you're seeing there, toward the end of the day. And today it's kind of quite honestly the exact opposite around the time frame that we've seen that very small blip of green on the screen. But essentially, as you can see here, stocks just tumbled today. A lot of losses as a result of the Iran war, the impact that it's having on things. Let's go over some of the numbers. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average, as you can see here, closed nearly 450 points down, 0.96% to be more exact. The S&P 500 fell 1.51%. That's pretty significant too, while the NASDAQ Composite lost 2.01%. A lot of issues that we're seeing here, but again, it really just ties around the escalation that was announced for the war in Iran, the oil prices. There were a lot of exchanges over the last 24 hours in the Middle East. Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Pentagon is sending thousands of additional Marines to the Middle East. That there's heavy preparations being made to send ground troops to Iran. There's multiple sites reporting that. And so again, the word of the week, the word of this time right now for the nation is just uncertainty. For the world, it's really uncertainty. We had an earlier conversation about the Strait of Hormuz and oil prices and how that's being ramped up. Reuters is reporting that Iraq has declared force majeure on all oil fields operated by foreign companies. So that caused oil prices to climb even more. The Brent crude topped $113 a barrel. And the oil trading was at about $98 a barrel. The escalation, uncertainty, all factoring in there. A lot of fears that inflation is reigniting, that rate cuts from the Federal Reserve will be off the table for quite some time. And there are varying ideals on that particular issue. We saw earlier this week, we listened right here on the show to the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, as he announced that they were keeping the rates the same at 3.5 to 3.75% right now. But we also spoke with one analyst who felt like possibly, Jerome Powell's time as the chair is set to end May 15th. And at least one expert that we spoke to this week felt like, okay, well, if the next person comes in, Kevin Warsh, who is President Trump's nominee, who still has to go through confirmation, but if he ends up in that seat, there still could be 2 to 3 rate cuts this year to bring us to where President Trump would like us to be. A lot of questions on that. I've heard from several other experts that feel like we may only get one rate cut this year, if that. And it really depends on how long this war in Iran goes. So a lot of questions there, but this is where we have ended the week, and we have seen pretty much the same picture throughout the week. So not ending the week on the best of terms in terms of the stock market. We'll see where next week picks up. All right, everybody. But it's 3:47 right now, and we do want to get to our final conversation here on the show for today, and that's about mean girls. No, I do not mean girls who actually bully. This is really a bullying prevention program that's called Mean Girls, Mean Girls Empowerment Incorporated. Kenitha Johnson, the board president, is joining me to talk a little bit about their big program happening this weekend to empower and strengthen our young ladies. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us again. It's always a pleasure.
Always great to see you. You already know I love what you all do in the city. Tell me about what's happening tomorrow.
Oh, it's actually next Saturday, which is great.
Saturday? Okay.
So girls have time to still register, but Manage Emotions, Avoid Negativity Girls Inc., known as Mean Girls Empowerment, is hosting next Saturday our 5th annual Girls Health Matters Summit.
Tell me what will be happening there.
Yeah, so this is an annual summit. This year we are located at the Inglewood STEAM High School on 68th and Normal. Our theme this year is Glow and Grow, Crushing Stress, Building Strength, and our goal is to get 200 girls 10 to 18 to come into a safe space and talk about so many issues that we are seeing with our underserved population. And so they're going to have an opportunity to have wonderful presentations about empowerment, education, crisis communication, stress reduction, and have an opportunity to have over 25 resource booths that serve the community. Everything from American Red Cross to Lori Children's to Meridian Health Plan and University of Chicago, who's one of our sponsors. So it's going to be an absolute great time for girls 10 through 18.
Well, I'm so glad it's next Saturday and that there's more time for people to sign up for this. What do they need to do if they want to be a part?
So this is a very easy process. This is open to the public, again, centered to girls 10 through 18, and you can sign up at meangirlsempowerment.org. It's free. More importantly, also following us on our social media, because we're announcing our wonderful speakers that are going to be coming in next week. And so, yeah, help us get our target. Invite a niece, a friend, a church group, a youth group that you know that serve girls.
Let's talk about the issues that face these young ladies between 10 and 18. For many people, you know, we spoke with a young man in college today, and it's very clear, like, listen, for those of us who are older, we may not understand that generation. This 10 to 18-year-old group is a totally different beast. So talk to us about the issues that you are hearing. You work with these young ladies on a regular basis. What are some of the issues that you feel they are dealing with right now?
Yeah, so shout out to our phenomenal founder and CEO, Shatina Edwards, and our amazing programmatic team. But we're seeing everything that we're seeing in the news, things from suicide to low self-esteem to really girls, especially minority girls, just feeling like they just have to take all the weight, that they have to carry everything. And so one of our conversations is going to be great. It's about crisis communication, but it talks about when life feels heavy, let's talk about it. Because we've been told to be so resilient. And so we want to live the soft life and we want to have those moments where we're allowed to break down, but giving girls tools to build back up and to create those level of resiliency, but not to push it to where, you know, you're not allowed to express yourself, or you're not allowed to say, hey, I'm not okay right now, and I do need some additional resources.
Yeah, and maybe, you know, if people want to help you all with your mission, whether it's helping young girls next week or next month or whatever the case may be, you all are working year round. So if people want to help you with your mission, what do they need to do?
Yes, again, go to our website. There's an option to partner with us. We love partnerships. We are in a number of CPS schools, and we are so supportive of the wonderful schools that have us there. Additionally, we are also looking for board members. So if you are tenacious and you love this work and you have a passion, please go to our website and look for volunteer. There's a drop-down menu where you can just say, hey, I like events like the Girls Health Matters Summit, and I just want to volunteer for those, or our nonviolent 5K walk, or to say, you know what, I want to take a bigger step and I want to make that commitment to be a board member and help expand this organization, because there's a lot of girls to reach, and there's a lot of amazing girl groups and mentoring groups out there, and we're happy to be part of that cohort.
Mm-hmm. When you say glow and grow for next weekend, I want you to kind of tell me what you're hoping in the midst of a full day with Mean Girls Empowerment, how you're hoping that these young ladies will leave that experience.
The goal is that we usher them in with love, and it's all about representation. And so many of us have the opportunity to have those grandmothers and those aunts and cousins that look like us. So some don't. And so from the moment they walked in, they'll be pom-pommed in with love and register. They'll get breakfast snacks. They'll have those resource vendors. And again, everything is about a conversation, letting them know that, you know, oftentimes we feel like this is just my issue, not knowing that there's an entire community that feels the same way. And so when they leave, we not only want them to feel educated, but empowered to take the appropriate steps to say, you know what, I need this type of health service that I heard about, or I want to share this type of service, because we know when we educate a girl, we educate a community. So this is very important that even, you know, when they walk away, they said, you know what, this might not be applicable to me, but this could be supportive for my little sister, or you know what, I want to tell my mom about this program that I heard to maybe enroll in.
And what is important about the timing of having this at the end of March? What is the nexus for saying that this is when we want to have this event?
Yeah, so obviously it's Women's History Month, and these are going to be our future history makers. But additionally, we do have a state proclamation in April. The first week of April kind of falls within Easter. But our Girls Health Matters Day says across the state to let everybody know we matter. also, let's just align it with what just happened. We just went through elections, and we saw a number of qualified women throw their hats into races to be those next voices and leaders. And that's what we want to make sure that this generation, this group of folks, as they're coming into their teenage years and their adulthood, that they understand the gravity and give them the tools that they can be the appropriate leaders for our future for Chicago.
They are the leaders of the future, and we hope that our future is shining bright. Thank you so much for what you do to, shine their crowns and get them ready for the future. And again, everybody, March 28th, so not this weekend, the next weekend, from 9:30 to 3:30 p.m., the Mean Girls Empowerment Summit is going to be happening at Inglewood STEM High School. You can go online, as she said, and get more information to sign the young ladies in your life up to be there and to be a part of this wonderful experience. Thank you so much for your time today and for what you do year round.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Everybody will be right back. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much, as always, for spending some time with us here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back here on Monday between the hours of 1 and 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Spring has sprung, so get out, enjoy yourself this weekend. Be safe, and we'll see you back here next week.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Okay, let's catch up. A Chicago cop is off the street just days after shooting. What triggered the department to act so fast?
The federal student loan